So that's it. And please, today is informal. I don't want you just to, if you want to just sit there and take everything in, great, it's your prerogative. But if you have an opinion, if you want to say something, if you disagree with something, great. Please feel free, and I will be asking for some audience participation and involvement throughout the day as well. And just enjoy it and relax. That's it. Oh, go on, yeah, go on. Thank you, Leon, thank you. Yeah.
You have to turn it on.
Fantastic.
Testing, cool.
Testing.
Good morning, everyone.
Looks good.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Leon. They've done the intros, so let's get down to business. Like James said, the first topic for the discussion today is anti-fraud prevention. In the moment we start dealing with mobile payments, the moment we start dealing with ads, there's always the possibility of fraud, and I'm happy to be joined today by Twe and Troy, who will be discussing this topic with me. So please take a seat, gentlemen. Let's... Well, feel free, have a seat. You're very welcome. By the sound of it, you knew a little bit about the topic anyway from your introduction. So let's start with a short introduction from each of our speakers. Tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, which part of the mobile ecosystem you hail from, and how this topic relates to you within your industry. Troy, thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Anzelle. Sam Media and MEF for having us today. So my name is Troy. I head the Southeast Asia India Regional Business for Fodder. So just to tell you a bit about Fodder itself, right? So I know that because I've spoken with some of you and you don't know really what Fodder is, so yeah, it's totally fine. So Fodder is the digital trust platform for the commerce industry, mostly on the digital commerce side. So we provide the accurate and instant assessment of the trustworthiness of the users on the every stage of the buying, so the journey itself. So we're able to isolate between fraudsters versus good users, so that everybody gets the experience of what they deserve. So, of course, I'll be able to explain a bit more how we do it in the back end. And then myself is, before Fodder, I spent 18 years in the digital identity fraud and the payment industry. So all along working with the banks, telcos, fintechs, and the super apps within the APAC region. So I'm very happy to be here today alongside my fellow panelists, Chu and James as well. So looking forward to the productive discussion today.
Thank you, Troy. I actually went to Fodder's website in preparation for this panel, and if any of you own ASICs, the running shoes or the sneakers, oh, yes. I think that's a good elevator pitch. If you bought them online, they do the anti-fraud and secure your payment. All right?
That is correct.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Twe.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Twe, Business Development Manager from Unpin. So basically, we are a gaming monetization platform. We run on one and only website, www.unpin.com. So Unpin, what the Unpin does is we connect directly with the game publishers, Tencent's for PUBG, Moonton Mobile Legends, we have Garena Free Fire, Miho Genshin Impact. So we sell direct top-up into the games and vouchers as well. So my part of the scope is actually connecting to the payment channels on the localized level. Malaysia, for example, we have this touch and go boost for e-wallet. We have DCBs, we have online bankings. So Unpin, basically, we are more focusing in Southeast Asia. Obviously, we are going into different regions. We're expanding into Middle East and Latin America that we don't have much knowledge how is the fraud kind of things happening there. So we do looking for partners like Fodder that is actually helping us to, let's say, minimize or even eliminate some kind of these attacks from the hackers.
Yeah. Thank you, Twe. James, you don't need any introduction, so let's skip you. A little bit about myself. My name is Anzelle Robertson, and I'm the Business Development Director for Sam Media for the region of Africa. So on the fraud topic, as we've seen in Africa, many or unfortunately, where in European markets, even Asia, consumers have become tech savvy over the years. Unfortunately, in Africa, we're still seeing a large part of the market where consumers are, look, you never want to lay the blame with the consumer, but more easily defrauded on the side of social engineering, for example. Which is something we've worked very hard together with our partners to eliminate, well, not eliminate, but to address in Africa. But one important part I wanted to get to is the regulation side of things, and South Africa is a good example in terms of this. The South African market is a self-regulatory market, that's the mobile payments industry, and they've actually always drafted their code of conducts and drafted their guidelines in such a way that all the players within the ecosystem, so digital content providers, carriers, payment aggregators, work together to ensure that there are guidelines stating, for example, that as a gaming provider or as an anti-fraud solutions provider, you have to step up within this, in the industry and play your part. So I was curious in at least for you two, in the markets that you operate in, so the Asian example, what role does regulation play in preventing fraud?
Well, basically, regulator plays two parts, of course. First thing is they regulate the rules and regulation, of course, the guidelines, how you actually go out to the market, how you publish your banners, campaigns, what kind of wording to use when you use, let's say, a bulk SMS messaging part to reach out to your users. And of course, they do a lot of awareness to the local consumers so that throughout radios, TVs, YouTube shows, different social media, and newspaper even, to teach, to educate the consumers like how you identify this one is a real advertisement, is this legit, or this is coming from a scammer.
Yeah, that's a good point. The educational part towards the consumer, is that something you have seen in the UK?
Yes, but I think it's been a bit lacking in general. I'm speaking not just from the UK's perspective, but globally here, because like you mentioned, the subscribers can't take all of the blame, but no stakeholder, no party can absolve themselves from blame totally. It goes back to what I said, all of us have got to work together. But who? If everyone relies, if the four of us, different stakeholders, perhaps, for example, mobile network operators, let's say mobile network operators, banks, credit card providers, content providers, messaging provider, if all of us said yes, and this is something I see regularly within MEF, and you can very, very rapidly just become what we call in the UK a talking shop, where you talk, everyone says the right things, but actually very little actually proactively gets done about it. And this is with educating subscribers. Someone has got to lead it. Someone has got to lead it. It's okay saying it's the mobile network operator's responsibility because they ultimately own the so-called last mile. They have that relationship with the mobile subscribers. But no, the content is coming from the games developer. So they're the ones who actually should provide a level of educational. No. In this situation, it's the banks. And we actually have a working group within MEF, which is going to be getting active again, called, for example, Banking Fraud South Africa. And it all kicked off several years ago, and Anzelle is from South Africa, raised this whole aspect of self-regulation where is it the bank's responsibility? Is it the operator's responsibility to protect the consumer? Who is it? It can only be done through collaboration, but subscribers have got to take their own responsibility. And I know I'm taking a real long time to answer the question, but we all have a responsibility. And social media, if you think about it, we will all know lots of people who on social media have absolutely no problem sharing their whole life, what they had for their breakfast, lunch and dinner, and anything going on in their personal lives, they put it on social media. But the moment Unpin steps out of line and sends some content to a subscriber that they weren't expecting and spam, it's like, oh no, what have Unpin done, or what has the enterprise done? Yet that same person has no problem sharing their whole life story to everyone on the internet. So there is really a disconnect with many subscribers around the world in terms of their own attitude to security, shall we say, online?
Well, thank you, James. So staying on the education topic, so we were talking about educating the consumer about fraud and awareness around that. But there's another element to that. So with the DCB for Growth working group that we're also part of with MEF, it used to actually be called, prior to us changing the focus to DCB and carrier billing and how to grow that as a payment method. Prior to that working group was called the Anti-Fraud Working Group, and we published a white paper. So different companies from the ecosystem, I think there were carriers involved, there were digital content providers involved, there were payment aggregators involved, came together and published this white paper as a guideline on what, in our instance then, I know for you it's retail, and for others it would be other vectors, but what carrier billing or payments fraud is, how it takes place technically, so how it can be, how it happens in the first instance, what the different types is, and of course then how it can be prevented. And that was used not only to educate consumers, because consumers are not going to read that white paper, or not at all, but it was used to educate other stakeholders within the ecosystem. So take the African example for again. We're seeing network operators not knowing or not understanding how it even is that a fraudulent payment can occur. And it's up to us then, and payment solution providers, to educate them and show this is you know the reality, and this is what's at stake. Is that something you deal with on the retail and e-commerce side as well, having to educate, you know, your...
Absolutely as well. So awareness is already there, right? So if we take a bit of the step back to 2-3 years back, you know, because of the global pandemic, it's really shifted the digital commerce, and a lot of shoppers goes online, right? The benefit is all of us, I mean, most of us. Yeah. But on the flip side, there's also a big, create a haven for fraudsters, syndicates alike as well, right? So in the regional and industry perspective, you know, not only for cybersecurity breaches like, you know, LastPass cases, you know, 2021, which are very common. In addition to that, we see a lot of common fraud cases in the, with our clients in the retail merchant side as well. So for example, like account takeover at the onboarding, checkout, so which is very common to social engineering. It's happening across the region everywhere, right? Banks, you know, not only for retail merchant, also the banks as well. So that's where the fraudsters are really attracted to the digital goods, because they can get the digital goods without any physical delivery, and then they can just resell it immediately on the marketplace. So those are the very common cases. Yeah. Then on top of it, you know, border tax and the fake account creation. Just now you mentioned about the sneaker, you know, drop everything. So yeah, absolutely. So we see those kind of places. Those are like serious cases for really derail the genuine customer experience, right? So for example, our customers in the sneaker area, when they drop the Air Jordan shoes, Yeezy shoes, like for example, and then even in the travel industry, like seat hogging, price fixing, those are the very cases that we see in the everyday basis. Then another one is around more like policy abuse. So a lot of the players nowadays, like customer likes to, they are, I mean, not like the fraudsters, but they try to abuse the policy, like returning item not received, item damage, all those things, right? So those are the areas that we need to look at very carefully. So nowadays, the merchants are aware of it as well. There's a very thin line, because you don't want to create that kind of blanket fraud approach by blocking everybody. That will really derail the customer experience. So it has to be the quite challenging to do balancing act for fraud risks versus the customer experience as well. So those are our experience across the region.
And in doing so, I read you reduced something chargebacks by like 90% or whatever for in the sneaker example. But that's amazing. That's awesome.
That's correct. Yeah.
Cool. So going back to direct carrier billing then, and to mobile content, what do you guys do, or what do you think is the important steps that digital content providers need to take to address the problem?
Well, I think the most important thing is the company has to be aware of getting a balance of the revenue, right? Of course, company is for profit, but they need to take care of a risk and a branding for the company as well. So what we do is we are more focusing on the branding instead of the revenue. We know that the customers, gaming, people want to buy, right? And we want to give them the most flawless flow user journey, but again, we do not want the fraudsters to come in to cash out, because we are selling vouchers as well. Like Troy said, these are the easiest channels to purchase with account takeover, with friendly fraud that they can cash out easily everywhere. Because these vouchers, they can buy in Malaysia, cash out in UK, no problem. Right? So what we do, especially with the DCB world, so since that we are having a premium content, right? So like these telcos, operators, usually they'll offer me a one-click flow. Right? The easiest, because you want a seamless flow, user journey. So my answer is no. So they got surprised, like, why? I'm giving you the best flow. So my answer is what? No, because we want to make sure that my part is want to make sure that the consumer, the gamer, is fully aware of what they are buying. And at my website, all the description, the restrictions, right? How to purchase the voucher, how to redeem, and if there is restriction that you cannot redeem the voucher in a specific region, we wrote in that website clearly. We collect the information passed to a partner for risk assessment before we actually process the payment. So that makes us not bulletproof, but to very minimize the risk and to save the branding.
Yeah. But that's a good point, because you said, you want to make sure that the consumer actually know what they're purchasing and what they're doing, and that they actually want the product they're about to purchase. And we've seen a similar thing doing sort of pilot projects and working with, as opposed to direct carrier billing or premium SMS, with M-Pesa and other mobile money providers in the African markets. And whereas direct carrier billing traditionally was always sort of driven by impulse type purchases. So like you say, the typical one-click situation where you would see a banner, you would from there have some payment interaction that's typically just a click without much information going on around it. What we're seeing with mobile wallets and using the mobile wallet as a payment method is, because the consumer is paying from the same purse, the same kitty that they used to pay, their kids' school fees or to buy groceries with. Because of course, if you pay with your airtime, it's intangible. It's like, what is my airtime? So just pay, or my add it to my phone bill. That's much different than paying from your actual wallet. So we need to make sure that the consumer, by the time that they're about to check out, actually want what they're about to check out for. So we're doing projects with a shopping cart example, where instead of the previous model where it would be you pay at the door and then you have all you can eat access to whatever digital content is available, giving the consumer the opportunity to browse, choose and select their content, add it to a shopping cart, and then there, of course, we have our anti-fraud checks happening, and we do our verifications and then checking out.
I could add so much to this whole conversation. In fact, I'll add just a little. How much time have we got to you?
I think we've got another 5 minutes, James.
Okay, yeah. But just a little bit here. So, Twe, Troy, Anzelle, absolutely spot on. If we stick with direct carrier billing, Anzelle is very correct. So the working group within MEF was the DCB fraud working group. It was rebranded to DCB for growth, because it's all about growing the channel, and direct carrier billing is an absolutely fantastic channel. I think we've all got to wake up and realize that no one channel is better than any other channel for absolutely everything in every single situation. Whether it's SMS, whether it's direct carrier billing, there are certain use cases it's great for, there are other use cases it's not so great for. We've got to understand that, and we've got to embrace those things and focus. We can't say it's the second coming and the best thing since sliced bread. That's a very British English phrase. But it's the best thing, better than anything else. That's the first thing. With regards to the anti-fraud side of things, worse than actually letting some potential fraud through is the false positive. That can absolutely kill your business. And we've all personally, I'm sure, experienced that, where spam filters in an organization, it could be with regards to your email, or you're trying to make a payment and you're going, it's really me, I've bought from you before, why are you doing this to me, why are you blocking this?
I'm not a robot.
etc. And it really, really can hit you, and it means you don't do something. And just a tiny example, I remember going to Macau for a GSMA meeting. I landed in Hong Kong. WH Smith is a very British store where you can buy newspapers and chocolate and things. I fancied a Cadbury's Fruit and Nut. I like chocolate. Cadbury's Fruit and Nut bar. I wanted a Cadbury's Fruit and Nut, and I was really tired, so I'm going to get, and I thought I'd get a Coke Zero. So that's what I wanted, and got my credit card out. So there's more to life than direct care billing when it comes to payments as well. So credit card, got my humble credit card out to pay. And I just used it for a transaction before, and it was declined. And I was told, I received an SMS from the credit card provider telling me I had to call them. So I'm in Hong Kong, roaming, not exactly cheap, to call back to the UK. I just want to buy my little chocolate bar and my can of Coke Zero. It's like, I'm not asking for much. So it's like, no, forget you. I got cash out. And there we go. So it's like, why? I've just bought something. You know it's me. They can do a check. They can do a number lookup to verify that James is roaming. You can see that straight away. So why did that happen? So that friction. And now, in the back of my mind, from that point, do you know what? I'm not going to use that card going forward. If you're going to create problems, I'm going to use another payment method going forward. So that experience can really impact you. We're going to be talking about this later on today, about the whole area of data and customer care and things like that. But how you deal with a potential issue is important. And what's very, very strange about direct carrier billing, and it's something some of you may have heard me mention before, but if I go, let's say Anzelle has a chocolate shop. So I walk into your store, buy some chocolates, get home, and I find I have an issue with the chocolate. I don't ring up Visa or MasterCard because I paid by Visa or MasterCard. I contact Anzelle's chocolate shop directly.
It's a very unique thing to direct carrier billing.
It is, but it goes straight to the mobile operator. Why? Why? And then the mobile operator itself gets tied up. We're going to be talking about this later. But everyone's got to work together. And I like what Unpin, what you said and what you're doing within your company. You're trying to have as much clarity as possible and making things as easy as possible for the consumer to realize what it is, A, they're buying, and if there's an issue, how do they resolve it? So, very important. I don't want to steal the thunder of everything coming today, but that's it from me.
Thank you, James. So similarly, I was just about to ask whether you guys have any closing remarks on the subject or anything you'd like to add. Troy?
No, I absolutely agree with what the James and the Twe said, right? It's about in terms of looking into the identity instead of rather than what is being purchased and from where, because that's the reason that it happened that cannot decline. For us, is that we have to look into the details of the identity, who's behind the interaction, so they're able to isolate between fraud versus protecting the good customers as well. There's a lot of things involved in the back end, like identity personal graph that we have to look at the patterns across a billion, identity across our data set, plus machine learning, plus everything involved. Of course, if we go into the detail, there's a lot of major source behind it as well. But in essence, yes, two things is technology and data. So we need to use it wisely to make sure that we can stay ahead of the curve on any time basis.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. To anything from you?
Well, James, he asked me one question, the panel session before, whose responsibility is to eliminate fraud, right? My answer today is still the same, everybody.
But someone's got to take the lead somewhere. And I would hazard to say, organizations like MEF are a perfect
I was about to say, that's exactly what we're doing here, and that's why we're grateful for organizations like MEF and others, and also, like I said, self-regulatory bodies like WASPA in South Africa that provide these platforms and these fora for us as different parts of the ecosystem, but one ecosystem in any event, to come together and have these discussions and address these problems. And this was, I guess, between the four of us, our little contribution to doing that as well. So thank you very much for joining.
Thank you very much, Anzelle.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Troy. Thank you, Twe.
Thank you.